Okay, I think we're live.
Looks like we are.
Yeah, and I'm looking here at our little control panel. Hello, everybody. 131 live. So we still got a few more to come. So let's just chat for a minute. Over in the chat box, we did this in the past, and it was pretty fun. In the chat box, if you're already connected with us, just tell us where you are on the planet.
We're interested to hear where you are right now, and also if you have any trouble with the sound or the video, just let us know. All right. Oh,
okay. India, Philippines, Portland, Oregon, St. Louis, Toronto,
flying in, Bucharest,
Guatemala, Querétaro. Been there.
Yeah.
Canada. That's kind of general, isn't it? Brazil, Kentucky, north of London.
That's pretty precise.
Romania, welcome.
Lovely. Denmark, that's good.
Tijuana, in there?
No, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Egypt.
Yeah, but I would have expected him to be in Montenegro, Brazil. But
yeah, and Pedro says, I'm Pedro. Hey, welcome, Pedro. El Paso, Texas.
El Paso.
Boston, Calgary, in there. Calgary, I spent, I don't know, 6 months of my life probably in Lake Louise. And so Calgary was our shopping destination every so often. Renee, hey, welcome.
Montreal.
Yeah. Singapore, Emily.
Oh, beautiful. Singapore, my
Czech Republic, Jerry. Wow. This is really cool.
That clean.
Yeah. And some of you are staying up later, right? Some of you, I think it's nighttime probably. It's just before noon here in beautiful Colorado.
Yeah.
So it's 11 o'clock a.m.
Cyprus, that's a place I want to visit.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Nikesh, welcome. Oh, Belgium, another place where I spent some time in beautiful Ghent and Bruges.
Lagos, Nigeria, welcome there. Wow.
Excellent.
Poland. I'm overwhelmed, really. We'll have to take a look at this, Gerard, afterwards and take a look at the log.
From Argentina. That doesn't ring a bell.
Hey, Adrian. Yeah, we got some familiar names here. All right, shall we get started?
Gerald, great name, Gerald.
Gerard, what do you think? Let's get started.
Philippines. Richard, is that place familiar to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard lived in the Philippines as a small child.
Yeah. Okay, let's get going. We have a PowerPoint, so we're going to be launching that in just a second here, but we thought we'd just introduce ourselves and the topic here. I'm Richard Ron. I'm a principal with the Leonardo Group. With me is Gerard Leone.
Hi, folks. Also principal with the Leonardo Group.
And what triggered this webinar was actually an article by Jim Womack, maybe a few years ago. And we'll get to it. We'll share some quotes from this article. But basically, he was saying, gee, why in a company that's supposedly lean is there so much Kaizen going on? Why are there so many after-the-fact Kaizen events, and why are those needed? And I'm reminded of a company I visited a few years ago who had launched their lean initiative. And they were very proud of the fact that after about 2 or 3 years of this lean journey, they'd done over 600 Kaizen events within the company. And I remember at the time listening to that and thinking, well, that's kind of impressive, right? 600 Kaizen events. But why do they need so many? Why are they doing so many Kaizen events? So that's what we want to address in this webinar, is maybe a different way of approaching this issue of Kaizen, and maybe a different, grabbing the Kaizen stick at the other end. Talk about how we might approach this in a different way.
And we are big proponents of Kaizen. But when Kaizen is all you do, that begins to suggest that maybe your line was not properly designed to begin with. And for a while, we felt a little bit of odds with Dr. Womack, who we admire, but it felt a little bit at odds because all he did was talk about Kaizen. And close to his retirement, he came out with this article in which I think he even said, I think I have been misinterpreted to a certain extent, it's not all about Kaizen. You need to start with a well-designed line. And at that time, I felt, oh, okay, finally he said it. So that's where this webinar, the genesis of this webinar is a methodology we use for Kaizen, and how we use our mixed model line design, mixed model material management roadmaps as guidelines for Kaizen.
Okay, so we'll have a special download offer for you, or not an offer, but an opportunity to download a file about halfway through, and then at the end of this webinar, we'll have a special offer, so stay tuned for that. So I'm going to turn screen sharing on and see if we can load our presentation. So here we go, 3 steps to better Kaizen. So we'll see what those 3 steps are in just a minute. But what we're going to propose here is a different way of looking at Kaizen and a different way of approaching it, as we've alluded to, maybe more oriented towards proper value stream design up front, as opposed to after the fact continuous or incremental improvement. So that's basically the gist of it. So what is Kaizen? Let's start with an introduction to that. Japanese word. I think probably most of you are familiar with this already, but we'll just do a quick review. So Kai and Zen. So there are two pieces of that. Zen, I think, is good. Kai is, what is Kai?
Thinking.
Thinking.
Yeah. So in the line that you're probably not 100% familiar with is the one at the bottom that says, unless a process is improving, it's degrading. And that is a very powerful way of looking at process improvement. What we do with line designs normally is to help our clients achieve a step function in productivity, in production, in whatever KPM you want to look at. But if you leave it there, it is only natural that it will begin degrading. So if you look at making that first step, after that, you need Kaizen to sustain and continue improving. So I absolutely love that line. And when the process is improving, it is degrading. There is no such thing as a stable process, or stability is but a passing state.
The image I remember seeing was that of pushing a car up a hill, and Kaizen would be like a little block that you'd be able to just jam under the wheel to keep it from rolling backwards. Right? Keep it going up the hill and not sliding backwards. All right, so I think most of you are familiar with Kaizen, but here's the issue that we want to address more directly in this webinar. And the question is this: is Kaizen, or could Kaizen be a form of waste? That is, if we're doing too much Kaizen or needing to do too much Kaizen, is that a symptom of maybe a bigger issue that needs to be addressed outside of this Kaizen process? Outside of the Kaizen methodology, is there an issue that needs to be addressed? And obviously, you're going to see that our answer to that is yes. But let's get into it. So here's what triggered our thinking from Jim Womack, an article. The article, by the way, you can find it online, Kaizen or Rework.
We strongly recommend that you take a look at that article. I think.
Yeah, just 1 or 2 pages, but it's worth a read. But I'll just share with you. We'll just read together what this says here. Is an organization's skill in after the fact Kaizen, like 600 Kaizen events in a few years. That is, its talent for process rework, actually reducing the pressure for the hard conversations about lean process development or lean process design that ought to be taking place during product development instead. So I think that's pretty hard to argue with, right? Disagree with, but let's explore this more. So the issue here is too much Kaizen or too much focus or reliance on Kaizen taking the focus away from the need to design value streams up front during product development or during value stream design or during line design? Okay, so another way of saying what Womack just said is a quote from Stephen Covey. This is the 7 habits. This is one of the 7 habits. So begin with the end in mind. So prior to implementation, we should have a pretty good idea of where we want to go. In other words, just like any kind of development project, like building a house, you want to have a design before you start cutting wood and nailing in nails. So begin with the end in mind before you start your journey of actually physically making changes to processes or physically changing your production environment or your value stream.
And the comment that Jose Ignacio is making there is very timely with respect to the point that Richard is addressing. Having a Kaizen program that Kaizen program needs to be aligned with the company's goals, and it needs to follow the value stream. Having a bunch of Kaizens happening everywhere in the company without a structure and without supporting a value stream, you're likely to find pockets of excellence without seeing results.
Correct. So, traditional Kaizen, if there is such a thing as traditional, here's how we typically go about it. And remember, we're not saying that this is bad or wrong, but we will be offering an alternative to this. But typically what we would do with a Kaizen initiative is something like this. So 3 steps. We create a value stream map of the current state. So you'd pick a production line or an office process, any value stream that you want to focus your attention on, and you'd create a value stream map of how it is today, warts and all, we like to say. And you map that out on a wall with sticky notes and brown paper and markers. And you document each process step and how they're connected. And then number 2, usually as a team, you identify opportunities for improvement. So you look at where inventory is accumulating, for example, the yellow triangles. And as a team, you discuss that and identify ways to, usually based on lean methods, right? Lean thinking, how you might improve those. And you document those on your value stream map with a Kaizen burst. And it's surprising, sometimes shocking, how many of those Kaizen bursts you can create, especially if it's a value stream that's never really been Kaizen before. Like Gerard, remember you and I worked at a hospital here in Lafayette.
Yeah,
you did one value stream. I did another value stream.
Yeah,
remember that?
Oh, yeah, I think that was our record, right? We did 2 value streams. We analyzed 2 value streams. One was a patient coming in through the emergency department,
yeah,
and being admitted to the telemetry floor, and that was you. And I did a patient coming from the street and going for elective surgery, and then being either discharged or admitted. And we did those 2 in parallel, and we accumulated, I believe, something like 130 opportunities for improvement.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was everyone was surprised.
Yeah. And none of them was minor. Many of them were gigantic ones. Yeah.
So you end up with a list of things you want to do. You can't do them all at once. But one of the things you typically do up front is you create what's called the future state. So what if you took all those improvements and you implemented them? What would that value stream look like? So you create a theoretical, hypothetical future state map of what that value stream would look like with all those improvements implemented. And of course, you would create a deployment plan. You can't do them all at once. So you'd have some, schedule of when you're going to actually do these. A lot of these ideas are going to be just do it's. So you don't need a big team or a big budget, but other ideas are going to be more substantial, and you need to plan carefully and maybe buy things and plan for a team to be available for a focused amount of time, usually 3, 4, or 5 days to implement these other ideas. So that's traditional Kaizen.
Some of them become initiatives, not individual Kaizens. I remember from that one project we just mentioned, one of the Kaizen bursts was improve operating room turnover time, right? It is the changeover or setup, like we say in manufacturing. That was an enormous project all in itself. And that is sometimes just one Kaizen burst.
Sure. So this is what we do, and we're not saying this is wrong. We do this all the time ourselves, but there are some concerns with taking this approach, which we'll share with you now. So the question is this: we're improving a value stream. Again, it could be hospital, manufacturing, office, engineering. But what if that value stream that we're looking at was really not designed well to begin with? So what we're trying to do with Kaizen is improve it, and you will, right? If you come up with ideas, then you're going to have a better value stream afterwards than before. But if there's some fundamental flaws with that value stream because it wasn't designed well to begin with, then you're probably not going to be able to end up with the optimum, in the future state. You're going to end up with an improved value stream, but not really what it could be if you'd started with a blank sheet of paper.
Or it may just take way too long to get there. And you're not going to be alive to see that improved value stream because it's just going to take too long. And the pain will be too much.
Yep. So that is the question we would ask ourselves. And a good analogy, I put in this slide. This is from the movie Money Pit, Tom Hanks. It's a little bit like a house project. So if your house is not what you'd like it to be, the house you live in, can you do a Kaizen kind of initiative, maybe a checklist of all the things that you want to improve? So maybe you have some quality issues like a leaky faucet in the kitchen, or maybe you have a lack of space for your home office, and you come up with some things that you can actually do, but you're doing these changes on the foundation, so to speak, of a house that was not optimal to begin with. So if you do that kind of work, is it going to be better afterwards? Sure, it's going to be better. You're going to make improvements, but is it going to be your dream home, so to speak? Well, probably not, because you were building it on this foundation that was suboptimal to begin with. So the question then is, and there's a range of, if you're talking about a house analogy, there's a range of things you can do to improve your house. The neighbor right across the street from where I live bought the house, my next door neighbor, my current next door neighbor, and then some crews started showing up, and they removed the roof, and they removed all of the drywall inside the house, and then they removed all of the siding and all of the windows and all the doors, and what was left was a foundation and then the frame of that house. That was the only thing left. And then they had crews come in and restructure, where the framing inside was, where the rooms were going to be, et cetera. And then they put the whole thing back together. So they had essentially a totally new house. That's one extreme. Or actually the extreme is you'd knock the entire house down and rebuild it. And then on the other side of this bell curve, we have the idea of making small incremental Kaizen events. But what we want to address in this webinar is there a middle ground, like a middle way between knocking the house down completely or making small improvements, incremental improvements? And that's what we're going to discuss. We think there is a middle way that doesn't require you to completely scrape the house, but on the other hand, gives you more of a structure for the changes that you can make, that you can still do in an incremental kind of way, right? So we want to have this brainstorming session with you, Reinventing Kaizen. So why don't you take it, Gerard, and kind of describe what we have in mind?
Sure. What we're talking about is you begin with a solid line design. What is a solid line design? Is that future state, right? So you do a line design process by which you're going to gather data, do calculations, figure out tag time, figure out the number of resources, link and balance the resources, and say, that's where I want to get to. So you begin with the end in mind. And so far, it's all going to be on paper. For those of you who can afford it, it may include a simulation model. You now have your future state.
But the design would not be constrained by what you have today.
Exactly right. And that is, if those of you who have attended our classes or have taken our online courses, this is the point that in the roadmap that we refer to as a conceptual line design, right? It's not constrained by the building. It's not constrained by the utilities or any of the issues you may have in your current environment. It's the ideal line design. Then what you do is you analyze the gaps between that ideal, that conceptual design and the current state value stream, right? Then what you do is you start moving in the direction of that future state. That's a third step. So yes, current state value stream, valuable. Line design, that's your future state. And you begin moving in the direction of that future state, in which in some cases you may have to move some resources on the line, or you may have to add or subtract or relook at the balance or redeploy resources instead of just making only small improvements that will just take too long. As a matter of fact, I had that conversation with a client a short time ago where we were talking about redesigning the line because, you know, they have been very lucky and the market just loves them right now. They're getting showered with orders that they have a hard time fulfilling. And they asked me, Gerard, can you help us design a line to support this? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I expect it will take this much time. What concerns me is to make sure that you make it there alive. So we ended up putting together an intermediate plan. So we're going to do 2 line designs. One, to get them to an intermediate step, and another one to get them to that final step. So that's what we're telling you here. Current state, great. Future state is that line design. Yes? Frankly, I was never too keen on that dreamed up future state from a value stream map. My future state is that line design. The current state is what it is today. Figure out the gaps and move in the direction of that conceptual line design.
Okay, so back to my favorite house analogy. It just so happens my wife is an architect. And so she sat down and designed the future state of the house that we live in. In other words, the remodel that she would like to do on the house. And she actually created drawings for it, conceptual drawings, right, of that design. Now, how that manifests in terms of projects that I want to do around the house, I mean, bigger projects, is that they have to pass the future state hurdle. So if I suggest doing this, and it's happened quite a few times, I might suggest doing this, that, or the other to our existing house. And many times they get vetoed, shot down by the boss because they don't fit with the future state. And what she'll say is, we don't want to do that, sweetheart, because we're just going to be wasting our time and effort because it doesn't fit in with our redesign, right? Our remodel future state design.
And yet, Richard is talking about the wife. Okay.
What's that?
And yes, Richard is talking about the wife. That's the boss.
The wife. Yeah. So I think that's a great analogy. You know, where what I might propose to do, what might seem like an improvement to me, like a Kaizen improvement, actually gets vetoed because it doesn't match that future state direction. Right. So pick something else.
Just let me address a question. Madham, please read text and let me know what you mean by CPM. Continuous process something, and I might be able to answer that question. Let's keep going, Richard.
Okay. So that's the vision here. So back to Jim Womack, does he support this or not? Well, he says Kaizen is an important activity at Toyota and involves all employees, and we certainly see that. We go to Toyota every quarter and teach public workshops there. Yeah. But new processes launched at Toyota are usually extraordinarily lean to begin with. And post-launch Kaizen is a small part of Toyota's competitive advantage. So I think that's, for me, when I first read that, that was sort of, or when I first started visiting Toyota, that was kind of new information. Because I think, generally speaking, people think of Kaizen as being Toyota's, secret weapon, where they have everyone engaged in continuous improvement, and they're processing a lot of small suggestions. And what Womack is saying is not really. Sure, Kaizen is important and everyone is involved, but really what's much more important is the upfront design of their new production lines or their value streams within Toyota. And the after the fact effort is much less impactful.
We're very lucky that the folks at Toyota are great hosts to us and great friends. And for the longest time, we touted heavily their continuous improvement program, by which they accumulated some 900 suggestions per month. Right, Richard? That was about the number.
More.
I'm sorry, no, it was like 1,200 or 1,300 suggestions per month.
Yeah.
And we always felt, oh my, this is great. And their level of implementation, the percentage of implementation, was in the 90-some%. And they started making some changes lately. And by the way, these folks are changing constantly, right? Things that you say, oh, this is working great, they change it to keep it fresh. And recently, they changed their suggestion program, right? And they, in their own words, they decided to start focusing on fewer, higher quality suggestions. So they went down to the 500 level. This is from my last visit. And my last visit was just a couple months ago. Richard is going in 2 weeks. Next week, I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is really remarkable. They are redesigning their lines, and because they have brought in many more products, the plant has gotten much bigger than what we used to know. They're redesigning the lines and doing fewer, higher quality Kaizens, and that to me was remarkable.
Okay, so that is an interesting thing. So now we come to the important question. If we buy into what we've said just so far, if you agree with that, makes sense, then the question that now remains is, how do we design a value stream, right? How do we do that? What is the methodology that we would like to follow? And what we think of when we're talking about manufacturing, what we think of is a bird, or the two wings of the bird.
The two wings of the bird. And those are not the only two, but they are the most critical ones, because many times what we see working with some of our clients, we see some really talented manufacturing engineers or production engineers designing and balancing a line, and then just throwing that line design over to the material guy saying, hey, figure this out, right? So when Richard clicks, what you will see is that the two birds, the two wings of this bird, are process design, the linking and balancing that we like to talk about so much, and the material side. Those two teams, at the very, very least, those two teams need to work together. Of course, many more organizations need to participate, like quality, facilities, safety, of course, but process design, linking and balancing, material management, making sure that the right material at the right time, in the right container, at the right cost, you know how that goes.
Yep. So process design is the work, and then materials is the stuff that we need to work on.
Absolutely. So these two need to happen in parallel, right? And there are many points of contact. They both need to know, for example, the products and the volumes, right? And then one is going to utilize that information to design, link, and balance the line. The other ones use that information to figure out how to support each workstation with the materials at the point of use. Are you going to present that using Kanban, sequencing, kitting, all these different techniques to save space and to provide the right material at the right time?
Now, what we want to do is share with you then our methodology for process design and material management. And as you can appreciate, this is a huge subject. Either one of those is the subject of a 3-day workshop. Just to get started.
Right now, the point I want to make to you is, if you find yourself doing Kaizen nonstop, start thinking about changing. All right. Really, that's the main point of this webinar. Start thinking about line design. Yes. And we're going to tell you how we do line design, which, you know, we happen to share the methodology with some of the most successful companies in the world. And we don't have time to teach you line design here. We just want to tell you, when you start thinking line design because you're doing too much Kaizen, have a method. Have a method, right? Like one of the comments that was made a few minutes ago. Unstructured, you're not going to get anywhere. Have a method, have a roadmap. So that's what we want to share with you. The line design, the mixed model line design, and the mixed model material management roadmaps.
Now you'll have a chance to download the line design roadmap here in just a second. I can't see your screen, but I think over on the right side there should be a tab you can click on, and if it's not there right now, it'll be there in just a second. You can get access to a PDF file with the roadmap for line design, which looks something like this. So what we've done is we've taken the methodology and put it into a flowchart kind of format that you see here. And whenever you see a drill icon, drill symbol, what that means is that there's a sub roadmap right underneath that. So for example, step 1.1 says create assessment and master plan. Well, that's pretty high level. And how do we actually do that, or what are the details? Well, there's a drill there that tells me that there's another document underneath this that lays out the more detailed steps with that particular high level task. Yeah, the roadmap you can download, the PDF file includes all of the sub roadmaps as well. Yeah. But we'll just share with you this top level here. Yeah,
that is a bit of an Americanism that we use. Drill down means going down a level, right? Going into more detail. And every time you see a drill there is another roadmap behind that. We're going to share with you the highest level, starting with the beginning that says have a plan, right? And that 1.1 there, that says have a plan, which is the first gray box. And don't worry about reading this. Go ahead and download it. That 1.1 that you see on the upper left-hand corner, that one, we do recommend that you do value stream mapping for that, right? Or you use every plan fast, or have a structured master plan that is aligned with whatever documentation your company uses. Have a plan. Define where you're going. Define what are your KPIs. Define what is the budgeting period you're working with. Definitions, plan, have a roadmap started from there. Then you move to 1.2. You have a target area. That's one of the goals of your master plan. What's my target area? Are we redesigning the entire plant? Are we redesigning final assembly? Are we redesigning fabrication? Are we redesigning chassis, mast? What are we redesigning? In 1.2, you start the job, and in the roadmaps behind 1.2, gather data. That's probably one of the largest sub roadmaps in this entire process, because there you're going to start for line design with understanding or gathering data on your products, your volumes, effective hours of work, your processes. You're going to build process flow diagrams. You're going to build your process flow matrices. You're going to define your families. So a lot of work there. Data. This is not line design by feel. This is scientifically based line design. You're going to calculate how to link and balance your line. So that's 1.2.
And let me just say that this is a data-driven approach. So we're relying a little bit less on a philosophical approach to line design. In many cases, there's a lean philosophy that we're all familiar with related to elimination of waste and other aspects that we try to apply. And certainly those kind of philosophical goals are still valid, but we're relying on actual data, meaning numbers, to design this line. And I learned an expression. I shared this with Gerard earlier today. In many organizations, decisions, like even line design decisions, are made by the hippo. And the hippo is the highest paid person in the organization. It's an acronym, right? HIPPO. In this case, we're not doing that. We're relying on actual data, right? Numbers.
Yeah. And I have a question from him that I want to address. Eliminate processes that do not add value. Absolutely beautiful. In the line design roadmap, we link and balance. And by linking and balancing, we're ignoring all the inventory, all the processes that do not add value, all the movements. We're ignoring all that. We're looking at processes that add value. We link and balance. So moving on to the next step, we're going to continue by understanding the standard work, and with standard work, we're going to use that to calculate the number of resources. Every process, we're going to calculate the number of resources that we need to link and balance. With that, we're going to define each workstation, and each workstation will be defined from the standpoint of the work content, which includes the time, the quality, the materials, the tools, all the resources necessary to define each workstation. With that, we're going to create our conceptual layout. Now, in defining workstations, again, this goes really deep, because in defining workstations, we're also going to be looking at balancing, right? And balancing, it was interesting. I was teaching line design last week, and some of the team members were saying, well, this is so different from what sometimes we read, in terms of balancing to tact, defining one tact time worth of work per workstation. Well, that only works in a single model line. In a mixed model line, that does not work. And sometimes that opens eyes, as it may be. Some of you may be looking at the computer thinking, what? What is he saying? That's heresy? No, it isn't. That's exactly the way mixed model line design works. So see that right on the corner, on the upper right, you see right underneath that, create conceptual layout. That's your future state. Then following that, for those of you who can afford it, we recommend that you build a simulation model. Why? Because balancing is one of the most important. Line design, linking and balancing is one of the most important aspects of your line design. And you're going to balance on paper. We call it on paper, but we really do it. You really do it in Excel. You're going to balance on paper, and you're going to balance live for sure. Perfect balancing is just not possible. So you will have some issues when you bring it live, and you have to rebalance at that time. If you can ameliorate that by balancing using a simulation model in between, that will make your life a lot easier when you bring the line live. So balance on paper using all 6 tools, balance with simulation, then balance live. Make sense?
Yeah. The most expensive time to be making adjustments to your design is when you've already implemented it. So again, simulation may cost you some money and effort, but could be well worth it if you can avoid having to do that later on, right? Because it's maybe 5% of the cost of actually making physical changes, if you can make the changes in a simulation model.
Yeah. So from that conceptual layout, then it becomes a question of adapting that to the existing layout or to the existing constraints. And I noticed who's that? Stephen Dayer say, well, why do you say CAD? Well, pretty much everybody uses CAD. I like Visio too, but CAD seems to be the standard. That's why we call it CAD line design. But it's computer assisted design. We do recognize that there are multiple different brand names for that. So we're going to get you to that point. From that point on, you adapt it and you start the road to bring it live, which is going to be all the physical deployment, all the training, training people on the new process, on the new layout, on the new workflow, on flexing, all that until you take it all the way to the end, bring it live. And from that point on, Kaizen starts. See? That's when Kaizen starts, after the line is.
Okay, so this is the outline basically of our 3-day workshop. So you can appreciate it. We've done it. Exactly. We've reviewed it with you in 10 minutes.
Exactly right. That is the outline of our 3-day workshop next week at Toyota.
Okay, so that's one wing of the bird only.
Exactly. That's just one.
Okay, so here's the other wing, which we're calling mixed model material management. And, similar series of steps, but focused on the flow of materials, not so much from suppliers. In other words, this roadmap is more focused on warehouse or delivery, dock to point of use, and how you would organize the material delivery system. Of course, outside suppliers are incredibly important as well.
And frankly, we focused primarily on the 4 walls inside the company, because that's where we see most of the need these days. When we begin to see more and more or much improved material delivery systems, we'll probably start looking outside. But right now, material seems to be lagging behind a little bit with respect to product flow.
Now, I remember a story of Mahatma Gandhi, and a woman and her son came to him, and they said, Gandhiji, please tell my son to stop eating so much sugar. And Gandhi said, well, come back in a week, and I'll give you my answer. So they were a little confused, but they went away. Came back a week later, and Gandhi said to the boy, young man, stop eating so much sugar. And the boy, said, okay. And the mother said, well, why couldn't you have just said that a week ago? Why did we have to come back? And Gandhi said, well, a week ago, I was still eating sugar. So the point of that story is, let's get our own house in order before we start asking our suppliers to jump through hoops. But of course, once our own house is in order, then we can extend or expand that pull system, that material pull system, to suppliers. And I'll have to say that Toyota Material Handling in Columbus has done a really great job of extending their pull system beyond the walls of their factory to a network of milk runs that goes from Indiana all the way up to Minnesota and all the way down to Georgia on a daily basis. And they send their own trucks out. So it's really quite impressive. And then, of course, they have a lot of material coming from overseas as well. So, but let's get our own house in order first, and that's the main focus of this roadmap.
Nadine, the story is still relevant, but Richard, you've been corrected. So, Nadine, please text us later. We need to finish the.
Need to get the story. That's not Gandhi. Someone else. Okay. Well.
But thank you. Next time, but maybe it was I don't know, somebody else. But yeah, please let us know.
Hey, no one else would know. Hey, Nadim, no one else would have known except you had to spill the beans. Okay. I mean, there are a lot of stories like that. I'm sometimes not sure where they came from, but we tell them anyway.
So, materials management. Again, what you're going to see on this roadmap is again, the structure of the workshop we teach. And we go step by step here, gathering the data, understanding products and volumes, the bills of materials, understanding different methods for replenishing, understanding the different calculations, and helping you build the plan for every part, a database that is so necessary for mixed mold material management.
Yeah, database sounds kind of daunting, but in reality, in most cases, it's an Excel, like a large Excel worksheet. Just from the point of view of having a software tool that's easy to change, easy to modify, easy to filter, easy to sort. So your plan for every part database is not your main repository. You probably have an ERP or MRP system, but it's a download from that to give you a platform that's much easier to work with.
So excellent. So again, don't want to go into too much detail with this. If you're doing too much Kaizen on your material system, you may have to start thinking about redesign. Where you're going to redesign, follow a roadmap. That makes sense? So yep. Yeah, we need to finish this within an hour. So I think we right?
I would say the biggest, just to make one last comment on this one, the biggest difference I see between, say, traditional lean companies and leaders is 1.11, the delivery route design.
Yeah.
Because almost invariably we see long cycles, long time between delivery cycles, because of the philosophy that material delivery is a non-value added activity, and therefore we should try to minimize that. But at places like Toyota Material Handling, their delivery routes are on a cycle of 37 minutes, 35 minutes, something in that range, which is very frequent. And you might say, well, that's very wasteful, right? Why are you putting all that effort into so many deliveries? But that allows them to have very low inventory levels on the factory floor, and they've basically shortage-proofed their lines. So this is a really important point that we emphasize.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Again, we're kind of refreshing our motivation here for this whole webinar. So again, how would you even know if your value streams weren't designed correctly? And the answer is pretty simple. You seem to have a need for a lot of Kaizen events, right? You have a long list of changes you want to make in these value streams that are not small, that are not little tweaks. So that would be a pretty big red flag that you need to be thinking about this line design approach that we're sharing with you more seriously.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that people ask us when we share our line design methodology, one of the questions they have is this issue of value stream mapping versus our approach. And in value stream mapping, you have a set of symbols that you use that describe the workflow, right? The flow of materials and flow of work. And one of those symbols is this triangle. And usually we mean by that inventory, right? So we have a process A, process B, and then we have some accumulation in between. And that accumulation is usually not by design. It's accumulation because of imbalances in the workflow. So inventory tends to pile up. And we have some estimate. It can vary, right? Especially if it's not designed, it can vary, but we have an estimate of average inventory between process A and process B, say 3 days. Now, when you develop process flow diagrams using mixed model line design methodology, you are not considering that triangle. And what students sometimes ask us is, why not? Isn't this important? Why aren't we documenting this like we would in the value stream mapping methodology? And the answer is pretty simple, that the process flow diagram is the future state. And we may end up with inventory between A and B, but it's not going to be random. It's not going to be allowed just because it happens or because we have imbalances. It'll be by design. So if we decide that a certain number of pieces or days of inventory is needed between A and B, it's going to be designed that way. So when we're documenting the workflow, the assumption is that we're going to be able to flow without it. And if we need it during the line design process, we'll put it in, but we're not going to simply or need to add it to the process flow diagrams, as you see here. So that's the kind of taking the future state approach right at the beginning, up front. Begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind is the ability to flow work, right, from one process to another, from one workstation to another, with a minimum amount of inventory in between, from 0 to maybe one piece.
Yeah, the folks that will attend class next week with Richard will hear him say link and balance a lot. Link and balance. That's what we're for. Link and balance. And when we balance, sometimes the answer may be inventory. We're not allergic to inventory, right? But it is designed, is calculated, is put in there for a reason. It's not there because, well, it was there before, right? It's there in the current state, so let's keep it. Nope, it is designed in.
Hey, Cesar, thanks. We did a little parallel work. Someone Googled my Gandhi story, apparently. So there's a link here. It says,
I just love the community. Think about participating. You make this webinar so much more fun.
Okay, so let's summarize what we're talking about here. We have a future state design. You have a couple choices in terms of how you would implement that. So we just shared with you the methodology, right? Mixed model line design, that's the workflow. And then mixed model material management, that's the material delivery flow or material flow. Now, once you have that, how do you make that a reality? And you have a couple choices. Just like the house, you can knock down the existing house and rebuild your dream house. And that would be what's sometimes called, if you want to use Japanese terms, kaikaku, like big project or big change. So you launched an implementation project, right? Maybe you even have a new building. We're currently working with a company that has they built a new manufacturing facility, and we're not only doing the redesign, we're going to put this new line right into that new building. So that's a great option if you can afford it, right? If you have the space, if you can do it, that's one way. It's not the cheapest way, right? But that is an option. But option 2 is to use the Kaizen kind of approach to implementing your future state. So what you're going to have to do is take that future state and break it into phases or break it into chunks, right? Smaller pieces that can be implemented over a longer period of time. But every time you do one of those chunks, you're contributing to the implementation of the future state. You're not doing things in a random kind of way or based on what you feel like or intuitively you feel is more important. You're actually contributing to the implementation of that future state. It's just done longer if you can. And we have a little hint here. If you do it that way, implement in phases, and those phases could be Kaizen events, then if you can, you really want to start implementing at the end of your value stream and then work your way upstream. So why is that? Well, what's going to happen is your change is going to make that process better, right? Flow better, faster, smoother. And think of that as a racehorse. So if you're putting racehorses into your line, you don't want to put them behind the donkeys, right? The old processes are the donkeys. Your new improved processes are the racehorses, and the racehorse is going to want to run. But if the racehorse is behind a donkey, the racehorse can't run, and that overall value stream performance is really not going to benefit. At least not immediately. So if you start at the end, you've got your resources at the end, and then you work your way from there upstream. Now, you can't always do this, but if you can, that's kind of how you want to approach this.
Let me address a quick one before we come to the end. Jose Ignacio, you document the inventory in the value stream map, not in the process flow diagram. That is the point we're making. You document it in the value stream map. With the process flow diagram, you design the line. Then the improvements will take place. You will not miss the inventory.
Okay.
So we're coming to the 1 hour mark.
Yep, we're getting close. So in terms of this network that we've set up, we just wanted to share with you resources available. And I was really impressed when we asked people to share where you're from, because we have people from all over the world. So we have what we're calling affiliates, lean consulting companies that are trained and represent the mixed model line design methodology, that also represent our online training classes in various parts of the world. So you can see where everyone is.
So
If you go,
yeah, please go
if
ahead.
you go to leandesigninstitute.com, you can see a more complete description of all these different supporting organizations. So if you're in South America, for example, you'll be able to go to leandesigninstitute.com and see which company would be supportive of this methodology.
Yeah, in South America, specifically in Buenos Aires and Montevideo, you will find our friends at HLT. Our friends at PISA Consulting are in South Africa, and then we have affiliates that are trained and certified in this methodology, ready to support you all over the world. So please, if you need help with this methodology, check out Lean Design Institute. Give them a call. These folks will be able to help you.
Yeah, we do have some gaps here. You can see there's nothing in India, so we're still looking for a representative in India. Some of you are listening from India, right? So keep that in mind.
If you know anybody interested, just tell them to give us a buzz.
Okay, so here's the offer. If you're interested in pursuing this mixed model line design or mixed model material management methodology in a more deep way, we have a number of options. As we mentioned, we teach a live class, but here's a special offer for you is we have an online version of the same class that we teach at Toyota for both the mixed model line design and the mixed model material management courses. They're available online 24/7, right? Anytime. I believe the mixed model line design course is 20 lessons. It's maybe 10 hours, 10 plus hours, plus hands-on exercises. So it's quite substantial. But there's a code that you can use. We're sharing with you here called Mixed. And if you use Mixed, you can take half off of either of these classes. And where you need to go to just find out more about it, right? There's a landing page that'll describe the course in great detail. And then also enroll in this class if you'd like. You need to go to leandesigninstitute.com.
Yeah,
right
and
on that
you will be more than halfway through a certification program by the time you finish this class. By the time you finish this class, all you have to do is the final exam that you don't have to take, but the final exam and the project work, and you'll be certified in mixed model line design. But this is the classroom work necessary to the educational part of mixed model line design certification.
Okay, so download the roadmap right from this webinar. You can see what's involved. And then if you want to get into the detail and commit yourself to a quite intensive online training experience, you can do that here for 50%.
Yeah, we're not going to lie to you and tell you that in a couple of hours you'll be an expert.
No,
it takes a lot of work, but we have put all the information in our online product. And again, if you are in the UK, give our friends at Kaizen Culture a buzz. Maybe they'll help you out, setting things up and helping you out with your line design. So they are fully certified and ready to point you in the right direction with respect to our learning management system, and they'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here and just come on back. Gerard, you want to come on back and show that we're still here? There I am. Okay, so we were lurking in the background, but we're actually still here. So I have to say too that the mixed model line design methodology that we practice, that we teach, and we shared with you, is something that I would say most lean consultants don't actually know. So if you're a lean specialist inside your company, or you're an external independent lean consultant, this is something that most of your competition does not know. If you sat down with with most lean consultants and you said, explain to us the methodology for designing a line based on data, based on science, they're going to be familiar with pieces of it, but they really probably are not going to know the entire
And
methodology.
they start talking about Kaizen. They start talking about value stream map and Kaizen. Some folks believe incorrectly that you can design a line from a value stream map. Not a good one. It will not be a good line design. You design a line with data by linking and balancing processes. And we know this from practice, from years of teaching, and from working with our dear friends at Toyota.
Okay, so I've got noon, so not bad, huh?
Yeah, precisely.
Coincidentally, we're done right on time. So we'll review all your comments. There are a lot of them. And if there's anything we need to get back to you on in your comments, we'll try to do that. But we won't hold you any further. So thanks so much for joining us. And we'll look forward to staying in touch. You're on our mailing list now, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, so, please keep coming back. We love having you as part of the community, and we love the fact that some of you even answer the questions before we even do. So it's great to have you, and stay in touch. Let us know if there is any other topic that may interest you for future webinars. We'll keep at it.
Okay, and you'll be receiving an email also with a replay. So in case you missed part of this or couldn't see the whole thing, you'll be able to get caught up. All right.
Excellent. Thank you all.
See you all later. Ciao.
Bye.